I'm back. Happy Monday and welcome into the PHNX Sun Devils show, coming to you live from Studio K, presented by Circle K. Join Inner Circle for free by downloading that Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details. That's right, I'm back. Rubus, Senor Ruby, is on vacation. He absolutely deserves it after holding down the fort. Like I said, I'm Anthony Totri. We still have Captain Redbeard, the man who doesn't take any vacations, at least not anytime soon. He is behind the mag, making all of the magic happen. Do us a solid. Hit that like button. Hit the subscribe button. Drop a 5-star review. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-star review wherever you get your podcast. BC in the chat. Marcus, Christian, let us know how you guys are doing on this fine Monday. We got a packed show. We've got so many different topics for you guys. I'm not even sure if we can keep it straight today. We got Bobby Hurley and ASU hoops. We're talking about the last decade of Hurley ball. And honestly, we might be ranting about it. We're going to be talking some ASU hockey, the Sun Devils and Greg Powers. They deserve their flowers. We're going to get into the Pitchfork versus the Sparky logo. Which one should the Devs be rocking for the long-term future? Maybe even sprinkle in some ASU football in there. I want to know how everybody's doing since I've been gone. First off, I need to know how everybody feels about this podcast being a strictly a buzz cut baddie podcast from now on, because I feel like that's what we got here. We got K Coop. He's rocking the buzz. I've got the buzz. Shout out Bobby Hurley for that one. You opted to get the buzz cut just because you were feeling the vibes. Is that right, Kyle?
We were talking about it. Just the benefits. You don't have to take an extra 20 minutes, get ready in the morning. And it's just nice, man. It feels good right now.
It's chef's kiss, right? You can wake up in the morning. You don't got to worry about doing anything to the hair. You can go to the gym. You don't got to worry about it. You can go into the pool, the hot tub, dunk your head in. You don't got to worry about it. Does not matter. I absolutely love it. I also think it's a great time because it almost signifies like a fresh start, right? And I feel like for Arizona State fans, that's what they need at this point in their lives, because ASU hoops has not been getting it done. Ruby, Captain Redbeard, they had the displeasure of doing a post-game show on Super Bowl Sunday for Arizona State and Oklahoma State. The reason I say it was a displeasure, because if you missed the game, the Sun Devils lost to an Oklahoma State team that finds themselves at the bottom of the Big 12. A team in Oklahoma State that Ralph said earlier in the week only really shows up at home. You knew that Oklahoma State was going to give you their best in Stillwater. You knew it. You knew that you were going to have a smaller rotation, right? Literally, physically, and literally with BJ Freeman out because of a suspension and Adam Miller out because of a suspension. And then to add, make matters worse, you had Jaden Quaintance getting hurt in the game. Alston Mason and Joson Sanon took a combined 40 shots against Oklahoma State, and Arizona State lost by double digits. Lost to double digits by the worst team in this conference. Now, you can maybe talk about the fact that this isn't the Pac-12, right? Maybe make it seem better than it is. There are no gimme games in this conference, and I get it. But when it comes to trying to change the narrative about the last decade of Arizona State basketball, you need to win the little ones. You need to win the winnable games. You need to beat the teams that are, frankly, no good all season long. Now, I know Eric talked about it last week about Kansas State, right? Well, you could maybe send your spin zone it like he did and say, well, Kansas State is one of the hottest teams in the conference. Well, how do you spin zone it now? How do you spin zone a team in Arizona State that looks completely different in the Big 12 than they did in non-con? This is what Arizona State is putting up on a nightly basis in the Big 12. You let me know in the chat, in the comments, if you think this is enough. They're 3-9 in Big 12 play. Offensively, averaging 68.2 points per game. Not horrible, but in reality, it doesn't stack up with the best of the best in this conference. It doesn't really stack up with the middle of the pack in this conference. So how are they shooting from the floor? Well, 40.9%, not horrible. From, three-point land, 32.6%. Not atrocious. 13.4 turnovers a game. So what does that all mean, right? Well, it's obviously led to that 3-9 record, but to make matters worse, this is what this team looked like in non-con when they were facing teams like a Florida, when they were facing teams like a Gonzaga. They went 9-2 in non-con. They were averaging 78.5 points per game, 10 points per game more than in the Big 12. Field goal percentage, 45.9. Okay? They were shooting 5% better from the floor. 3-point land, 38%. They were shooting 6% better. And they were averaging a turnover less per game in non-con games. So where did it all go wrong? Well, it's not just this team. It's not just the guys out there for Arizona State in 2024, 2025. Right? I don't want to sit here and say, oh, it's Alston Mason's fault that this team can't win in the Big 12. I'm not going to sit here and say it's Joson Sanon or Jaden Quaintance or Bashir Jihads or any of their faults, right? At least not entirely. Yes, does it fall on the players? It always does, and it always will, but a big part of it comes down to coaching. And if you look at Arizona State over the last decade with Bobby Hurley at the helm, this isn't new. This is not new. Okay, this roster is talented? Yes. Have Arizona State rosters been talented in the past? Yes. But what is the trend for Arizona State with Bobby Hurley? Well, it's usually a gauntlet in non-conference, right? This year with Gonzaga, Florida, some of the other tournament teams that ASU played in non-con, you had a tough stretch. Arizona State has had tough stretches before in non-conference, and they found ways to, at one point, you go back to what, 2017, 2018? A team that was the last undefeated team in all of Division I college basketball. You know how that season went once conference play started? They were a first four team that got bounced because they couldn't beat a Syracuse zone in Dayton, Ohio. This team has always been this team. This team with Bobby Hurley has always been this team. Yes, this roster is one of the most talented that Hurley's ever had. Yes, you can say the Big 12 is tougher than the Pac-12 ever was any year, and I'll give you that. But this has always been the result. This has always been the product. So yes, we can stomp our feet and get up in arms about what this season has been, which is, quite frankly, underwhelming, disappointing, atrocious at times, bad. But that's what this is. That's what Bobby Hurley basketball, again, has showed for the last decade. This is everything you've seen before. It's nothing new. It's just a different cast of characters. You're watching the same movie, and you have been for the last 10 years. Now, I'm not going to sit up here and say that the movie has been bad, that it's been, just putrid every second of every season, because it hasn't. Arizona State basketball, in reality, has never been a national powerhouse. Not to say that it can't be, but it never has been. And maybe, just maybe, the most success that this program has ever seen has been with Bobby Hurley at the helm, right? They made the tournament in 2022, 2023. They lost in the first round. They made it in 2018, 2019, lost in the first round. 2017, 2018, lost in the first four. All trips to the NCAA tournament under Coach Bobby Hurley in the last decade. Before that, Sendek took them to the second round in 2013. Okay, they lost in the second round, 2008, 2009. That was also Sendek. And then Rob Evans in 02 and 03. They lost in the second round. Reality tells me and tells you that that's what this program is. Every few seasons, every few years, you'll get something spicy. You'll get a team that makes a run in conference, that upsets a behemoth in non-con, and they get you excited. They get you going, right? This team, this year, is one of those seasons that falls in the middle of those tournament runs, that falls in the middle of the Sun Devils are going to the first four. Oh, the Sun Devils, they got an upset in the first round. This team, the Arizona State basketball team of 2024-2025, does not belong in the NCAA tournament. The idea of March Madness and Arizona State in the same sentence is otherworldly in and of itself. This team is not ready to be in the NCAA tournament, okay? A win over Houston doesn't get it done. 2 wins over Tech doesn't get it done. A win over Arizona doesn't get it done. This team just doesn't belong in the tournament. Part of that falls on the players. Part of that falls on the coaching staff. But I say that again, knowing that this is Bobby Hurley basketball at its finest over the last 10 years. Some people love it. Some people hate it. Right now, everybody hates it, and rightfully so. This team, you could argue, has degressed since non-con play. Okay? Again, I understand that the last game that this team played against Oklahoma State, it was a shorter rotation. Alston Mason had to drop 25 points. Like I said earlier, him and Sanon took 40 shots combined. You were without B.J. Freeman, suspended, lost his cool against Arizona. You were without Adam Miller, lost his cool again earlier in the week. That's what you got with this team. Not to mention, Austin Nunez has been out all year. The rotation is quite literally, seven players? You had Bobby Hurley Jr. getting minutes last night. It's just not going to cut it. This team is not tournament ready in this conference. Will Bobby Hurley get the chance to try and take this team to the tournament next season? I don't know. The jury's out right now. I want to hear from everybody in the chat. Let's go ahead and throw a poll in there. Does Bobby Hurley deserve another year at Arizona State, or are you ready to call it quits? I think both sides have an argument. I would say the group that wants Hurley gone, they're the louder group right now. There are always going to be fans of Arizona State basketball over the last 10 years that say, hey, this is as good as it gets. That's what I've heard. That's all I've heard, is that Bobby Hurley is the best coach that Arizona State can do. And then you have the little birdies on the little branches saying, hey, we can go get the Kenny Dillingham of Arizona State basketball. Where? Where is he? Because I don't think he exists. That's the thing with sports in today's day and age, is I think people, for better or worse, can get lost in these ideas. The ideas that somehow, some way, there is an Arizona high school just legend, right? Or I guess not an Arizona high school legend. There is a offensive coordinator out there who was born in the state of Arizona, who has been a Sun Devil his whole life, who has bounced around Division I programs, steering their offenses to stardom for years. And his dream job is Arizona State. Turn to the hardwood and find me that. It's not there. I've heard people say, oh, well, let's just wait for James Harden to retire. Let's wait for him to come to Tempe and steer the ship. Well, Is he the Kenny Dillingham of ASU basketball? I don't think so. Is he a massive face for the program? Is he a superstar that could maybe bring Arizona State back into the national spotlight? Yeah, probably. But is that a team that goes to the Sweet 16? Is that a team that's tournament bound every year? Probably not. Byron Scott, what about him? I don't hate the idea. Do you let Mickey Mitchell take over the reins? There are a bunch of different arguments that you could make, but I'll tell you one thing that I believe firmly. This program should never settle for mediocrity. Ever. The fan base should never settle. And right now, it feels like they're watching the same movie again. The same movie that's been playing for the last 10 years at this Tempe cinema that, I'll tell you what, it never has a glorious ending. You never watch this movie and wake up the next day and you say, you know what I'm going to do again the very next day? I'm going to watch this movie because it's that good. It's never a movie that wins awards. Ever. It never has been. And over the last 10 years, this is what you've got. What do we got from the poll? Do the fans want Hurley gone? Does he deserve another year? What are the people saying?
Does he deserve another year? 68% no. 33 yes.
Interesting. JJB in the chat. People want X's and O's. All we want Hurley gone group. They should be willing to accept a head coach that doesn't recruit at the level Hurley does. That's the trade-off, right? People can say Hurley can't coach, but he recruits his tail off. Jaden Quaintance, Joson Sanon, getting some of these group of five guys that they seem to be getting every single year that makes them splash. Not every X's and O's guy can recruit at that level. Most probably can't. So don't fall in love with the idea that Kenny Dillingham is going to come save the basketball program. His twin on the hardwood is out there somewhere. I don't believe that it is. But I think the question that the fan base continues to battle with internally is, do we let Hurley go and sacrifice the recruiting prowess for a guy that is the X's and O's demon that can get you an offense cooking, that will get you a defense that consistently night after night isn't getting rattled by teams like a Kansas State or an Oklahoma State? For me, I don't know what you do. I don't know how you salvage this program right now. If it were me, though, I understand the frustrations of the fan base. I think Hurley gets another year. I think he does. I think it is going to be tough for the administration and the athletic department to judge Bobby Hurley and this coaching staff off of just one season in the Big 12. It is the premier basketball conference in college sports. It's understandable that this team isn't playing well against Kansas, Houston, Iowa State. What is not acceptable is this team playing poorly against Kansas State, BYU, Colorado at times, and Oklahoma State. That's what needs to switch next season. And if it doesn't, then that's when you pull the plug. Look, guys, the PHNX Sun Devil Show just getting started. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, grab a drink, grab a snack. We'll continue talking ASU hoops, ASU football, ASU hockey, and Pitchfork or Sparky on the other side of this break. Look, guys, we have officially hit February of 2025. I don't care if it's the first month, second month, fourth month, eighth month of the year. Everybody can turn their focus to their finances in improving them this year. So how do you do it? Well, you do it with our friends over at Desert Financial Credit Union, the official retail banking partner of Arizona State University. Well, how do you know you could trust them? Well, there's a number of different reasons why. How about for starters, they've been doing it for more than 84 years, and they haven't just been doing it willy-nilly, okay? Desert Financial has been Arizona's largest and most trusted local credit union, dedicated to creating those exceptional experiences by giving back to the community and, of course, providing financial solutions that make lives better. If you're an Arizona sports fan, there's no better place to do your banking than Desert Financial Credit Union. It's the only place that you can show your team spirit every time you make a purchase with exclusive debit cards branded with your favorite teams. Now is the time to show your ASU team spirit. Open a free checking account online and get $200 plus your choice of 3 Arizona State University Visa debit cards. Go to desertfinancial.com/ASU to get started. Look, I do want to tell you about one of my personal favorite partners that we have here at PHNX, and that's our friends over at Waymo. And if you don't take my word for it, how about the fact that your Arizona State football coach, Kenny Dillingham, I'm not sure there is a bigger Waymo supporter than KD himself. Look, turn on those notifications for him because there are a number of times where he's going on Instagram live from inside a Waymo. Guys, spring training is coming up. There are a bunch of concerts going on. Innings Festival. Make sure you've got your rides to and from all of these amazing events with our friends over at Waymo. Look, they've got over 40 million miles of real-world driving experience. It's enough to drive to the moon and back 80 times. Download the Waymo One app and ride today. JJB in the chat saying there were some highs in the Hurley era, no doubt, and these guys are going to keep competing on the squad. I have no doubt. Got no doubt that they're going to continue competing, but look, competing is not enough. And maybe that's me. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm the only one that feels like that's just not good enough, right? How many years does it take to be like, hey, we're going to get a residency in Dayton, Ohio, because we know that the Sun Devils are going to be playing there every 3 years? Well, what are they doing in between? Nothing. They're doing nothing. They're at the bottom of the conference. Nothing. This team is not good right now. Are they competing? Yes. Are they competing for full games? No. They're competing for halves. They did it against Iowa State. They competed for a half. Against Kansas, they competed for a half. Against Arizona, they competed for a half. I don't want a team in a basketball program that competes for a half. I don't think the fan base wants that. But the question has always been, can you do better? Right? Can you get a better coach than Bobby Hurley? I don't know. That's not for me to decide. That is for the athletic department, Graham Rossini and company, to make that decision when they do. And I think he gets another year to try and turn it around. Now, I think a big part of that is you're going to have to retain some of this talent. Can you do that? Does Jaden Quaintance come back? He's got to stay another year in college basketball. Does he do it in Tempe or does he go elsewhere? What about Joson Sanon? Where does he go? Those are the questions that need to be answered in the offseason. I'm not even talking about the rest of the season. The rest of the season, in my mind, is chalked. This is not a tournament team. And if you are somehow, some way, sitting at home at night, like the Wolverine meme where he's holding the photo, if that's somehow you thinking that Arizona State is going to make a run in the Big 12 title game, in the Big 12 tournament, I highly encourage you to wake up from that dream because that's not happening. Okay? Ralph was talking about it the other day on the program. Those things might happen in the Pac-12 where it's UCLA and Arizona are the only consistent programs. Kansas, Houston, Iowa State, Arizona don't somehow magically lose back-to-back-to-back games against the Arizona State Sun Devils. It doesn't happen. And it's not just a shot at Arizona State. That's a shot to the entire middle of the pack of the Big 12. This conference, basketball-wise, is run by 4 or 5 teams. They're not teams that fumble the bag at the end of the season when a championship is on the line. It just doesn't happen. So if that is your dream, like I said, wake up. Just wake up from that dream, okay? We'll all deal with reality together. I promise. we can get on the other side of that. Let me know your frustrations in the comments, in the chat. I want to hear from Arizona State fans how you guys feel about the current situation with the Sun Devil men's basketball program. Look, while we wait for your guys' comments on that front, I do want to give some flowers to our friends over at Arizona State Hockey because they are on an absolute mission as of late. Greg Powers and company, they've got this team up to number 10 in the USCHO rankings, a top 10 team in the country. ASU hockey, at least in our diehard Discord, has seemed to be the sport that continues to pop up, with ASU basketball maybe falling and floundering all over itself. ASU hockey is what everybody wants to talk about. And if you look at what the Sun Devils and Greg Powers did this past weekend, well, it was impressive, okay? They had number 6 Denver at Mullet Arena, and they split. That's a good result, okay? In overtime of both games, 6-5 on Saturday, Arizona State got the dub. 4-5 in overtime. The Sun Devils fell to Denver on Friday. But it's not just what have you done for me lately. It's what Greg Powers and company have done realistically all season long. Look, they swept Miami of Ohio on the road, split with number 19 Colorado College. They swept number 15 St. Cloud State. Now, these are schools that if you are not a traditional hockey fan, you're like, okay, where's the Bamas? Where's the Auburns? Where's the Michigans? Where is all this? These schools, as it relates to college hockey, are some of the best in the country year over year. And Arizona State has found a way in the SEC of college hockey to be a powerhouse. This team is 17-10-1. Okay? They've picked up wins over a number of ranked schools. Okay? Do you remember back in November when this team swept, at the time, number 1 Denver on the road? This team, they've got big wins. Most of their losses as of late are tight. Okay? You never like to lose, but if you are going to lose a game at this point in the season, you'd rather it be a game where it is against a top 20, top 15 team and you're losing in overtime, as opposed to getting maybe blown out, right? Will in the chat, hockey taking 9 of 12 possible points against the defending champions is no easy feat and a difficult thing to do for any school. Absolutely. Sharing in the chat, seconding that, Denver is basically the Bama of NCAA hockey. And ASU, again, back in November, swept them. And most recently, this past weekend, split both games going to overtime. Absolutely an unbelievable stretch for Arizona State, especially coming off what was in reality a little bit of a disappointing season last year. To have the season that they've had right now, this is a team that if you're in college hockey, you don't want to see. They're legit. Like I said, close losses, a mix of monster big wins, tight wins, and there's still a lot of season left, right? You got the postseason coming up in about a month, right? A little over a month left in that regular season. This weekend, they're on the road taking on Minnesota Duluth. Going to be another big matchup for the Sun Devils. And look, you got to give some love to the guys making this all happen, right? Senior Ryan Kerwin leads the team in goals with 19 right now. And then you've got junior Bennett Schmeck is having a great season as well. I believe second on the team in terms of goals. This team is clicking, right? We saw it with Arizona State football. Team in a new conference, maybe not projected to finish the highest. People in the Valley believe a little bit more than people outside. Could ASU hockey be the next Sun Devil program to make a run at a national level? I think so. Again, Minnesota Duluth, Arizona State on the road needs to win both those games, I believe. Then you got Western Michigan, February 21st, February 22nd. And then you're at Omaha to close up the regular season, March 14th and the 15th. You got the NCHC quarterfinals, and then you got the Frozen Face-Off for the NCHC, March 21st and March 22nd. 2nd. That is in St. Paul, Minnesota. Right now, Arizona State hockey is one of the hottest teams. And if you have any sort of time when this team is back in Tempe, February 21st and February 22nd. Again, what should be the last games at home this season for Greg Powers and company. Highly encourage y'all to go. Go out to Mullet Arena. Check out what this hockey team is. I've seen the student section a number of times. What 942 crew has done with them. It looks electric. It looks elite. We saw Kenny Dillingham getting out there, dropping puck at one point in the season. Like, this is a fun team to follow. I think the fan base is really starting to dive into it. Minus the Coyotes, RIP. You still got great hockey here in the Valley. Great hockey. And it's at Arizona State. Okay? That's something that you need to fully enjoy as it relates to being a Sun Devil fan, especially as people wait for ASU football to get back in the swing of things here. Don't worry, spring football will be back before you know it. And look, I do want to talk just a tad of ASU football on the other side of this break. I need to get my itch in because I personally haven't talked ASU football with chat here in at least a week. So we'll get into all that and so much more on the other side of this break. Look, I was on vacation all week, took a trip to San Diego, had some time at home to relax as well. And you best believe that I indulged in our friends over at Pure Edibles. Guys, look, they're not covered in sugar like all their competitors. Eric loves to tell you guys about how Pure Edibles, they got like their own version of Starburst. It's the Kicks, okay? They come in this little tin, and he is not joking. Okay, some of the tastiest edibles that I have ever had the pleasure of trying. Okay, and it's not just the Kicks. They've got chews, which are like soft candies, like caramel. They've also got some hard candies in there as well. Look, Pure Effects are clearly listed on each tin, so you know exactly what effects you guys can expect. If you need something to maybe mellow out, if you're looking to have, I don't know, maybe a little bit of a party and really spice things up, well, Pure Edibles, they have you guys covered, okay? Pure Gummies, they're designed to be ripped or bit in half, making them easily shareable or easy to dial in your exact dose. Go find yourself some Pure Edibles products from one of the over 130 dispensaries in Arizona. Now, look, of course, we're here back in Studio K, the studio presented by our friends over at Circle K, America's thirst shop. Like I said, I made the trip to San Diego over the weekend, had to stop and get gas a number of times. In the lowest prices, for me, it felt like I found them right at America's thirst shop, Circle K. And a big part of that is because I'm a part of the Inner Circle. It's Circle K's free membership program. Super easy to download and super easy to take advantage of some of those fire deals they have. Look, you could save 25 cents per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups. And if that's not enough, you guys can save 3 cents per gallon every single day after that as well. Make sure you join the Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details. Look, Captain Redbeard, before we continue talking maybe some ASU football, get into that ASU debate about what logo is better, Sparky or the Pitchfork. I want to know how you feel about ASU men's basketball because you were here for the last couple games. You saw the Arizona State, Oklahoma State game. You were here producing the postgame show when Arizona State blew their lead to Kansas State. What are your feelings about this program this season and where Bobby Hurley is at in terms of his stability in Tempe?
It's hard to watch. I watched the game yesterday and cringed at times during that game. I mean, just an atrocious game from all standpoints. Like, your two players are putting up 40 shots in a game. You're playing, no offense, but Bobby Jr. out there. And it's been a theme the whole season. Like, they haven't had a healthy team. And, we talked about it yesterday, like, is it really, like, is that a big factor, like burnout and people playing too many minutes and whatnot? And yeah, sure, that's part of it, but you can't look like one great team one half of a game, and then the second half looked like one of the worst teams in the conference.
Yeah.
And yesterday, for the whole game, they looked like one of the worst teams in the conference.
Yeah.
And I think changes need to be made. I mean, there needs to be a better offensive scheme, in my opinion. I love Joson Sanon. He hasn't been the same since he came back after his injury. And he, for some reason, we love him just taking contested shots all the time.
Bad shots.
Bashir, for some reason, like it seems like he's kind of been a little iffy lately in the past few games. And he's had overall like a pretty good year, I would say. Like one of the better players on this team this year. And he's not looking good. So it's like I think it's a confidence issue. I think it's a mental thing. And, when you have someone that's leading your team and it's Bobby Hurley, and you're in for like rage fits throughout the game, just losing control. Like, I think there needs to be a better example. Like a lot of these guys are really young, like great freshmen, and there needs to be a better example at the top. And I think a lot of it, starts at the top and works its way down in college basketball. So, yeah, it hasn't been pretty.
It hasn't been pretty. And I do want to get to Jacob's Super Chat here in a second. But Captain Redbeard, before the show, you made a really great point when we were kind of discussing this about how Bobby Hurley and Arizona State had an opportunity to seize the moment left by Kenny Dillingham in this football program. And really, the train was moving in that direction with Jaden Quaintance, with Joson Sanon, Amir Ali. And there just was zero capitalization on the entire moment that Arizona State football provided for this program. I thought that was a great point that you made. If you want to add any thoughts to really Hurley and company not being able to take advantage of the moment.
Well, you saw it too. Like they even showed up at games. Kenny's been at a few games. Like it feels like they're trying to make this happen. They're trying to bring the spotlight a little bit over to ASU basketball. And like when we went to the takeover, like come on, like this team has got to perform better.
Yeah.
In front of the what the football team did, and the standards are set higher now, I would say, because of what the football team did last year. They're on the national stage. I think they just need to at least perform a little better than they have, and this last loss is just terrible.
It's embarrassing.
Yeah,
it's an embarrassing loss. And again, like you could talk about the chips being stacked against this team, right? You had obviously a shorthanded group going at it on a day in reality that, and maybe this is just me, I don't think there should be any other sports going on a Super Bowl Sunday. Like that just let the Super Bowl have its thing. I feel that way with all championships. Like the NBA, like a game 7, a game 5, whatever, like that's closing out a chip. That should be the only sport going on in the US at that time, right? At least nationally. Right? That is a championship of a major Power 4, whatever sport here. We don't need ASU basketball playing Oklahoma State at noon on Super Bowl Sunday. Whoever scheduled that, I mean, just stop it. We should never do that again. But I think you're right. Not being able to capitalize while Kenny and company had the season that they did, right? And I think almost the part that makes it so much worse, at least from a fan perspective, is when you compare these two, right? When you compare ASU basketball to ASU football, and again, I'd love to know from everybody in the chat, because y'all are fans here, right? For Arizona State, is Arizona State football was picked to finish dead last in this conference. A conference in reality that is probably the third best in college football, right? Behind the Big Ten, behind the SEC. And there wasn't any Joson Sanon level players, at least coming out of the transfer portal or doing all those things, right? There wasn't a Jaden Quaintance. There wasn't a top 5 guy that was, okay, this is the dude. This is the dude for Arizona State. Now, everybody, of course, talked about Scat, Sam Levitt, the potential there. Jordan Tyson, could he do it? Like, what was his defense going to be like? And they over-impressed, right? The expectations, they absolutely just skyrocketed them. Now, for Arizona State men's basketball, you did have that. You did have a Jaden Quaintance. You did have a Joson Sanon. You did have a group of 5 guys that were proven 20-point scores night in, night out at those levels, right? Now, I know the Big 12 in terms of basketball is much higher than the Big 12 nationally is viewed in football, but the expectations for ASU basketball realistically were higher than what the expectations were for Arizona State football. Arizona State football crushed them. Arizona State basketball has been underwhelming every step of the way. I think that, for me and for a lot of the fan base, is probably what is so disappointing is, man, Arizona State football and Kenny Dillingham, they did what they did when the expectations were to the floor in a team like Bobby Hurley and ASU men's basketball. Well, I'm not saying the expectations were to the moon, but they weren't in the grave like they currently are right now. And I think that's where a little bit of the disappointment comes into. I do want to get to the super chat that we had from Jacob earlier. We appreciate the $9.99 super chat, Jacob, saying, I don't know if recruits are a good argument. Say he gets more 5 stars next year and makes the play-in game and loses or doesn't make a run. Does he still stay? I think that's a phenomenal question. I think, again, the argument that he's a great recruiter and does all this, I think is true. I think Bobby Hurley is a phenomenal recruiter. I think Bobby Hurley is a phenomenal person. I think in the right system for the right program, Bobby Hurley can be a phenomenal coach. At Arizona State, though, it does feel like a lot of what you can do, a lot of the potential has been used up, right? Especially this year. You got guys, and you have guys on the roster who are better recruits and better commits than you've ever had under Bobby Hurley. You've got some very unique, talented players on this roster in a Bashir Jihad, right? In a guy like Alston Mason or BJ Freeman. You look to the past. Again, I always bring up that 2017-28 team, personally one of my favorite ASU basketball teams of all time. A Cody Justice, a Trey Holder, and a Shannon Evans. You had a 3-headed monster with a Remy Martin coming off the bench. And what'd you do? Nothing. You couldn't beat a zone. You couldn't beat Syracuse's zone, right? You go back to the COVID years and those conversations where you had a guy like Josh Christopher, right? What happened to Marcus Bagley? Like, there are so many conversations about the talent at Arizona State. And I'm going to be honest, I don't think talent is the problem. I don't think the quality of player that you are getting is the problem. How many programs nationally can say, oh, well, our biggest problem is the talent? Is it? You have 2 5-stars. One was one of the best centers out of this freshman class. Another guy in Joson Sanon that was committed to your rival, who's currently number 13 in the country, who flipped to come play for Arizona State, who wanted and said to be a one and done. Amir Ali has proven that he can be a guy at times. He's not a Quaintance or a Sanon, right? And Alston Mason and BJ Freeman and Bashir Jihad all coming from smaller group of 5 schools, scoring, like we said, 18, 20 points a game. The talent is not the problem. It's the usage of the talent. It's the consistency of the talent. It is the chemistry of the talent. Which, yes, like I said, part of it falls on the players. But another really, really big part of it falls on the coaching staff and the utilization of that talent. Frank in the chat saying, as an AZ Wildcat fan, please, God, don't let ASU fire Hurley. Give that man a lifetime contract. A lot of U of A fans I've seen feel that same way. They want Hurley in Tempe forever. And maybe he'll make them pay one day. Maybe. Will it be anytime soon? I wish I had an answer to it. Look, before we get to our final break and before we get to our little argument debate about Sparky or the Pitchfork, which I am ready to hear what Chad has to say about it, I want to talk just for the next two minutes maybe about ASU football and the Super Bowl, right? Because I think there is a little bit to take from what we saw with the Philadelphia Eagles just absolutely spanking Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce and Swifties for a solid 60 minutes, for 4 quarters, up and down the field in Louisiana like it was their job. It wasn't close, right? And I know Jalen Hurts won Super Bowl MVP. I know Saquon had the amazing year that he had. That offensive line is incredible. But that defense that Vic Fangio was calling and just put out there against the Chiefs needs to get some love. Can we talk about Josh Sweat's sack celebration as one of the best that I have ever seen? A man named Josh Sweat sacks Patrick Mahomes, arguably the second greatest quarterback of all time, and his celebration is disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. And I think for Kenny Dillingham and Arizona State, it was reminiscent for me of the Big 12 title game, right? Now, I know Rocco Becht is not Patrick Mahomes. That is not what I'm saying. But what I am saying is Arizona State in the Big 12 title game was met with a masterful offense in the Iowa State Cyclones. And it was the defense that in reality, and in my estimation, helped Arizona State get to such a dramatic win over the Cyclones. You look at the Super Bowl, yes, the Eagles offense played phenomenal, but it was that defense, a defense, Kyle, that did not blitz a single time. Did not blitz a single time and had 5+ sacks on the night. It was defense that wins championships. Jalen Hurts said it, and for Arizona State, building in the transfer portal, building for years to come, and for the fan base, watching from afar, watching in Tempe, watching from the moon, I don't care where you're at, defense will always win championships. Offense entertains, defense wins those rings. And everybody's going to want to talk about Kanye Udo. Everyone is going to want to talk about Jalen Moss. Everyone is going to talk about the return of Sam Levitt and Jordan Tyson. And rightfully so. Those guys are all awesome. Those guys are all difference makers. Those guys are all key playmakers for Arizona State that are going to do things next year for ASU. But what I want you to really, really get excited about is 10 of the 11 starters defensively for Arizona State are back in 2025. You're only missing Shamari Simmons. Now, I don't say only as in a lightly departure. You're going to miss Shamari. But being able to build off of what you have is how teams do what the Eagles did this past season in the Super Bowl. I promise you it. And if you go back and look, it's always defense that gets it done. We haven't seen a spanking like this on a national stage since the Denver Broncos, and maybe the best offense the world's ever seen, got absolutely just bludgeoned by the Legion of Boom in the Seahawks, right? Again, Philly did not blitz a single time. ESPN tweeted this out. The Eagles blitz Patrick Mahomes on 0 of his 42 dropbacks. Mahomes is the 6th quarterback in Super Bowl history to not be blitzed a single time. Do you know how many of those quarterbacks won the Super Bowl out of those 6, Kyle?
0.
Not a single one. Defense wins championships. And Will says it. We got the beef. That's right. CJ Fight, Jacob Kungaika, Clayton Smith, Prince Dorba, Justin Watley, all the guys. The gang is back in Tempe to run it back in 2025. I can't help but say all that with a big smile on my face because ASU football spring ball is right around the corner. I know a bunch of people in the chat listening on audio are excited about that as well. While we're at it, I do want to say thank you to everybody on audio that does listen, whether that be daily, weekly, every now and again. I really do appreciate you. We also here at PHNX really appreciate anybody who watches after the fact, right? Who watches us maybe a little bit after we go live. We do appreciate that. And of course, everybody in the chat, BC, JJ, Will, Sharon, SNDLV, girl, we appreciate everybody hopping in here on a daily basis. We're going to get to the argument that ASU fans were slightly having on Twitter. We got a tweet from Kyle Soley. He knows where he falls on this side of the Pitchfork Sparky argument. We're going to get to it, I promise, but we are going to take our final break. Guys, PHNX is proud to have Sanderson Ford as our official vehicle partner. And again, I've told you a number of times, I spent the weekend in San Diego, had a great time. But you know what was arguably the most frustrating part about my weekend? It's the fact that I saw literally 10 Broncos all over the road, on the freeway, by the beach, didn't matter. And I don't have one, and my gosh, I need one. They are the sexiest car that I have seen on the road. They are luxurious, they are spacious, and Kyle, I'll tell you what, they are affordable as well. Look, you guys could take the whole family in style and save 11 grand off a new Expedition, or you could hit the trails or make your own in a new Bronco Badlands, the best name for a car out there. For the best deals in 2025, choose Sanderson Ford for a no-hassle, no pressure, and of course, no-nonsense experience. And get more for your trade with easy, on-the-spot financing. Drive into the new year in a new Ford from Arizona's most awarded Ford dealership, Sanderson Ford. Look, if you're not in the market for a new car, maybe you guys are in the market for a new house, but before you buy a new one, you got to sell the one you're currently in. And our friends over at Carol Royce, their real estate team, they are going to take care of you. Write down this number, okay? 480-776-5231. That's the number to all of your dream homes and getting the one you currently have off of your hands. Carol and her team have an unbeatable track record, having sold over 12,000 homes across the valley. Carol knows the Arizona real estate market like the back of her hand. Guys, are you looking for a cash offer? Well, why settle for just one? Carol Royce can bring you 6, 7, sometimes even 8, and you get to pick the best one. If you're considering selling your home in 2025, the name to trust is Carol Royce. Your home sold, guaranteed realty. Have questions? Call today or visit Carol online at carolroyceteam.com. That is carolroyceteam.com. Make sure you guys hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and drop a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast. A lot of PHNX Sun Devils content hitting your PHNX Sports playlists throughout the week. Couple of tail of the tapes. We're bringing back Israel Briggs. Come on down. We're going to be doing maybe some NFL draft profiles on Shamari, on Leaf, on Scat, so much more. Not to mention, we got some ASU basketball post-game shows, which I imagine are going to turn into some ASU basketball post-game rants this week. Of course, the Sun Devils have a number of games this week, and of course, we're going to be coming to you live following those matchups. But I want to get into what I saw on social media a couple days ago and what people in the chat are already getting into. Sparky or the Pitchfork for Arizona State? Okay, Kenny Dillingham, of course, the Arizona State head football coach, he weighed in on this whole situation before, okay, saying, quote, every time you saw top 4 teams in the country and top 4 playoff teams, you saw the pitchfork right there on the graphic. Who knows if we'll eventually make that Sparky instead of a pitchfork? That's probably a deeper conversation. I don't know. Just throwing that out there. Quote, I'm a big Sparky guy. And former Arizona State linebacker Kyle Soley, he tweeted this about the actual Sparky debate. Okay, so Kyle says, Sparky will always be the face of ASU. No disrespect to the pitchfork. It's a sign of our university. When it comes to branding, Sparky brings the, quote, swag amongst the younger generation, is a more distinguishable logo. Many teams have a pitchfork logo. There's only one Sparky. I mean, you already know where we're going. Let's throw that poll in the chat. Sparky or the pitchfork for Arizona State long term? I want to know what you guys want to see. We're in the chat saying pitchfork for Sparky is no debate. Sparky is the face of ASU. The pitchfork is designed as a corporate logo, way too narrow to be prominent. Sparky stands out, takes up space. The fork gets lost. Jacob in the chat saying, I don't know of anyone that has been a fan pre-2011 who doesn't miss Sparky as the main logo. SNDVLGRL says Sparky. We're going with Sparky, right? I feel like that's the easy answer for me. Now, don't get me wrong. You look back here and you see Cam Scatterboo, right? Wearing that gold helmet with the pitchfork. That goes crazy. That's a great helmet. The helmets that have the Sparky logo on them could be a top 5 logo in sports, not just in college. That Sparky logo on the helmet is elite. Not to mention, if you are one of the fans that has had the luxury of seeing the Sparky logo in person on the field, that logo is something special. Why is it something special? Because it is so unique. It is so untraditional. Not to mention, it just flows with the color scheme that Arizona State runs with their uniform combinations, right? It just looks good. It looks better. Hunter's Zone in the chat. Easiest poll of my life. Sparky clears easy. CWP saying the Pitchfork is cool. It's grown on me over the years, but it's not as iconic as Sparky. That's the word. That's the word when we're talking about Sparky at Arizona State. It is iconic, right? I don't know about you guys, but if you guys ever load up NCAA, I still do quite frequently. I have a problem. Anytime I play as Arizona State, anytime that I'm trying to let Texas have it in a Peach Bowl rematch, it's always the Sparky on the helmet. You can't sit here and tell me that the Pitchfork on any jersey, on any helmet, on any field, on any given day of the week is better than the old school, big cartoon Sparky face. You just can't do it. The fork is good backup. Like Will says, it's a great backup option to have. It's a great Jeff Sims to have in this argument, right? It's just not Sparky. It just isn't. What do you think, Captain Redbeard? Sparky? Is it the Pitchfork? Is it a close argument, or are we talking a landslide here?
It's a landslide.
It's a landslide.
I wanted to ask, is there a Pitchfork mascot? Because that would not look good, you know?
I don't even know how you would.
Because there's Sparky. And that's
Sparky.
what I think of when I think of Sparky. I think of the mascot.
Yeah. I didn't even think of that, to be honest with you. When I think about it, and when I think of Arizona State, do you think of the mascot as opposed to the logo?
Yeah, just because of football. That's it.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
But the Sparky logo should be the permanent logo for Arizona State.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, not even close.
Yeah, like they were saying, it's iconic.
Yeah, it is iconic. And it is, like we said, it's special. It's unique. Like, there's, like, how many teams are the Wildcats? Like,
a lot.
A ton are the Wildcats, right? Even teams that have a little bit maybe more unique, like, names, right? Or like mascots, like the Jayhawks, right? Like, it's cool, but it's not none of it touches what Sparky is. None of it touches the element to what Sparky brings to the field, to the vibes, to the helmets. Like, if you're an Arizona State fan and you are getting ready to go to Mountain America Stadium to watch the number 15 Arizona State Sun Devils take it to whoever under the lights, you are, like, without maybe thinking about it, you're hoping that the Sparky helmet is what is going to be out there when they're playing. Like, under the lights, that's what Arizona State fans want to see. Will it ever change to that? Will it ever get to the point where Sparky is back to being one of one, being the logo for Arizona State? I don't know. But I will say, with Graham Rossini as the athletic director, with the sports kind of, momentum that Arizona State has picked up over the last 12 months, you never know. Graham Rossini has seemingly been very responsive to the Arizona State community. And I think if the Arizona State community truly feels one way or another about this, if former Arizona State players, football, basketball, baseball, softball, swim and dive, track and field, if they truly feel this strong about it, and it doesn't legally affect too many things, right? With merch and brand deals and all that type of stuff, I wouldn't be totally shocked if Graham Rossini and the administration and the athletic department made that switch for athletics back to Sparky. I genuinely wouldn't be shocked. Let me know again in the chat what you guys think. Will in the chat saying, if it's being talked about by the face of the athletic programs, it has life, Jacob. I think Crow stands in the way with changing it back. I don't know if it's Crow that stands in the way. Again, I think legally there are some things as it relates to the brand deals that Arizona State has with merchandise. Like, there are definitely some legal issues completely swapping your logo, especially with basketball season and all that stuff still going on. But we'll see. Summer's right around the corner. We'll see if Graham Rossini and company make any changes. Have your voices be heard, of course, in this comment section as well. If you feel a certain type of way about Sparky, about the Pitchfork, about ASU hockey, about the Philadelphia Eagles spanking the Chiefs, or Bobby Hurley in ASU basketball, well, this comment section It's therapy. It's what we do. We appreciate you guys hopping in today. Leave a like on your way out. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Please, please, please. We're on our way to 36.5 subscribers here at PHNX Sports. Currently 36.4. If you're not subscribed, hit that little button. If you enjoyed the content, give us a follow at PHNX Sun Devils. You can follow me at Anthony Totri. You can follow this guy right here, making all of the magic happen, Captain Redbeard at K Coop Sports. And don't worry, the Buzzcut Bandits will be back on Tuesday, same time, same place. But in the meantime, go Devils. In peace.
We all silly like the mayor.